and welcome back. Today we are making crawfish étouffée. I am Cajun. I grew up in a small town in Louisiana, and I have not made this recipe very much in my life because crawfish is expensive and because I've mostly lived outside of Louisiana as an adult, and crawfish is hard to come by. I'm going to start by making the rice. I'm going to do 2 cups of rice. This is brown rice. You can obviously use white rice. I'm using brown rice because it's better for my glucose. And I'll be washing the rice and then adding 5 cups of water. If you're doing white rice, I recommend only 4 cups of water is necessary. And if you're using brown rice, you want to make sure you select the proper setting on the rice cooker. Mine says whole grain. You can make rice on a stove in a saucepan. I always found it a little bit difficult, like it would stick to the pot too much and I would lose, I don't know, like 2 entire dinners worth of rice. So I find a rice cooker is a good investment if you are making a lot of rice because it's just a lot easier to cook. So this recipe actually came from a church cookbook that my mom had given me. It was called Taste and See, which is also a church song at our old church. Most Cajuns are Catholic, so this was a Catholic church, and I don't remember who actually wrote this recipe. Some probably old lady who is a member of my mom's church. I don't have the recipe book anymore. At one point when I minimized and downsized, I got rid of all my recipe books and I just saved all of those recipes I liked as Word documents, so I don't have credit for this. But some lady who lives in New Iberia, Louisiana, is the source of this recipe. So you're going to start by mincing 3 garlic cloves. You might have seen I only had 2 here. I added 1 after the fact off camera when I realized I had the wrong quantity. And you're going to take 4 tablespoons of a cooking oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, whatever you prefer, and put it in a large skillet on medium-high heat. Add the garlic to the skillet and let it simmer. Then you'll take 1/2 of a white onion. I already had some onions already diced and frozen. I have to admit I took this out of the freezer only 30 minutes before I started cooking, so they are still sort of frozen. So that's 1/2 of a white onion diced, added to the skillet. And you probably can't see that label, but it says bell pepper. That is also about 1/2 of a green bell pepper already diced, and that is the quantity you'll need for the recipe. If you wanted to make this using the Cajun Holy Trinity instead of my version, you will omit the garlic and add in some celery. I stopped cooking with the Holy Trinity at some point when I was in college, when I got sick of buying a whole gigantic bag of celery and using like one stalk for a recipe and having the rest go bad. I found out that most people pretty much just use garlic instead, and so that tastes fine to me. Um, I've literally never cooked with celery since then. It's I'm not going to use it for anything else, and it's just a waste of food. I don't know why they don't sell it in smaller quantities. That would be great. So stir that, let that kind of, I don't want to say simmer because that sounds like a low temperature thing, but let it cook um, for a bit until the vegetables are soft and the onions should get sort of translucent. Mine didn't because they were still kind of frozen. One reason I decided to make this is because as I mentioned, have a hard time finding crawfish. When I lived in Chicago, there was no Walmart in the city except for at one point after I lived there the second time. There was a Walmart in a neighborhood not super close to me, but not super far either. And I never checked to see if there was crawfish at that Walmart because it was too far to really travel for my regular grocery shopping. But there was no crawfish at other grocery stores except for once I found it at Whole Foods. It was literally $25 for a bag, which I don't think was even a pound. I think it was 12 ounces. And I bought it when I started dating my husband, and I went up to the register, and the price wasn't ringing up, so they gave it to me for $20 instead of the 25, because I don't know, there was just some discount thing. And I was like, sweet, sweet discount. And I never bought it since because that was too much money. Ridiculous. It's $25 for less than a pound of essentially your meat protein source. It's stupid. I think at one point, maybe 2019, we went to the Walmart in Skokie for something, and I said, let me check and see if there's crawfish here, and there was. So I picked up some there. It was probably $8 or $9 a pound, or sorry, for 12 ounces. It was close to $10, but I picked it up and made it. So I've literally made this. This is now the third time since I've been with my husband, who I have met almost 8 years ago, making this recipe, which is kind of crazy. This is from Westwego, Louisiana. It is an authentic Louisiana brand crawfish. The first time I bought crawfish in Chicago was quite a long time ago, probably 2005 or 6, and it was from China, and I kind of got some shame from my mom, but it's okay. It tastes the same. Like, what's the big deal? I'm not gonna like force a grocery store to stock crawfish from Louisiana. That's not something I have the power to do. So get your crawfish tails however you can. They'll probably come in a bag like this. They are in the frozen section next to all the other meat or seafood. And for the most part, I've lived in 4 different states. And aside from Louisiana, the only place I've found it at a decent price was Walmart. And it doesn't exist at Kroger at all in the 3 states I've lived in where there was a Kroger. So that's not cool. That was a 12-ounce bag. My recipe does call for 1 pound because it was made by a Cajun woman who lives where crawfish can be sold by the pound. So if you can get more crawfish, great, but don't like kill yourself over this. The reason I bought this, I also will say, is because I happened to notice that Walmart was selling it for $7 and something cents, like it was $1 off basically the regular price if I ordered it through their pickup thing, their curbside pickup. So I did, and now I have crawfish to cook, and it's delicious. So the étouffée word of this recipe means smothered in French. So you're going to smother it with water, which is what I'm doing here. The recipe says to just take as much water as will cover the crawfish. Don't put it too deep. This ended up being 2 cups. Your skillet might require you to use less or more water. Then we're going to take a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. I always screw that up, so I hope that was kind of halfway decent, and pour that into the skillet. Stir the sauce in there and then let it cook uncovered for 10 minutes. So here we are 10 minutes later, and the crawfish has shrunk in the water, which seafood does, and it looks like a ridiculous small amount of crawfish, but it's not. Then you're going to take a cream of mushroom can and pour that in there. If you decided to use celery instead of garlic, you may find that cream of celery is a good substitute instead of the mushroom. I never really taste the mushroom in here, so it doesn't seem like a weird thing, and this was the original recipe. It included the mushroom, cream of mushroom. Étouffée can be made with shrimp as well. It's pretty much a seafood-only dish, and I've never actually had a shrimp étouffée before. I'm pretty sure I've only ever had crawfish étouffée. If you're wondering how to pronounce that, I will admit to you that every guy I've dated who was from not Louisiana had trouble pronouncing this. It's A, like the word or the letter, 2 like the number, and then Faye like Tina Fey. That's all you got to remember. Étouffée. Now we're going to add the spice because Cajun food is not Cajun food without spices. It's going to be salt, pepper, and then cayenne or any kind of Cajun seasoning mix, all to taste. I realize I told you the spices in the wrong order. I started with pepper, just in case you were wondering. Black pepper, then salt. And then this Creole seasoning I found at Walmart when we first moved to Arizona. It's a mixture of cayenne, garlic, onion, and black pepper powders. I think salt too. So after you add the spices and the cream of mushroom soup, you're basically going to try lowering the heat to low-ish, but not that low, and stir periodically. You basically want to get the water to evaporate, so it's got to be uncovered so it can steam. And as you can see, perhaps the roux, I'm going to call it, did reduce. So this might be ready. I will tell you, though, after it fully cooled, the roux was thicker. If you like this recipe so far, please like, share, and subscribe. This is a real treat for me to make for myself because I rarely eat Cajun food that has seafood in it. A, because it's hard to find the seafood here out of, the state. And B, because it's expensive. This was, if I had picked it up in the store instead of done the curbside pickup, it would have been almost $9 before tax for 12 ounces of crawfish tails. And that's just ridiculous. Surprisingly, this is not low in cholesterol. Most seafood is, but I checked the bag, and it could be the sauce that they package it in. It's got a ridiculous amount of cholesterol. So one thing Cajuns will always do is not eat dry rice. We always have to have rice with some kind of wet coating on it. One time my priest made a joke about going out of state and being served white rice by itself with no gravy and no roux or nothing, just white rice. And that he didn't know what to do with it, and that sounded like the most disgusting thing ever. So stir it up before you eat it. And let's taste the crawfish étouffée. Needs more spice. Almost everything I cook always needs more spice afterwards. I think I am like just very conservative with the spices because one time I did put too much in and my nose was running. So we're gonna mix the spices up again and taste it one more time. And it was perfect. This is delicious Cajun cooking. Thank you everyone for watching. Happy eating!